Hello everybody, we are back and super excited to bring you a brand new application. This is the 5th generation Ford Mustang, specifically the 2010 to 2014 body style. Let's get started. So with this brand new solution, we'll be able to take this boring, old school, outdated, low-tech infotainment display into something more entertaining like this. I mean, come on. But before we do that, let us show you what's included in the box. This solution is filled with features and functions. Inside the box, you're gonna get a smaller box with all of your harnesses and the additional accessories, and of course, a beautiful 12.1 high-resolution display. This thing here, not only does it have a 12.1-inch display, but it also replaces your AC climate controls, volume knob, and tuning knobs. Let's get on with the details. And last but not least, direct contact information. Guys, we are the only manufacturer on Amazon that will provide you with a direct phone number as well as an email address so you can reach out and get immediate support should you have any questions during the installation or ordering process of this product. So I've taken the screen out of the bag. I normally don't remove this protective film until the unit has already been installed. Now, let's go over some of the plugs directly on the back of this radio. Now you notice there's a pigtail hanging out. This black cable happens to be your SIM card holder. So just in case you would rather have this unit always connected to a cellular network, you could get a data plan on a SIM card. All you have to do, it's got an arrow that slides the door over this way. You flap it open. The metal door here, it looks like a little aluminum film. All that's gonna do is you push it down and you hit the back of it so that the door can open. Your SIM card is gonna lay right in there. You're gonna close it and slide it up to lock the SIM card in place, and then you're just gonna close the door. The additional plugs that are on the back of this unit, you have here your Wi-Fi antenna connection. This is in case you wanna use your mobile device as a Wi-Fi hotspot. Directly below it is an HDMI output. This happens to be there just in case you wanna feed the video of this unit out to a separate monitor. Right next to it, we have the main power speaker plug. Over to my left, your right, is this grid of different connectors. This is where your 3 camera inputs are gonna be. This is where your RCA, front, rear, and subwoofer outputs. Yes, this unit has preamp outputs so that you can connect an aftermarket amplifier or 2 or 3. It also has fiber optic Toslink outputs. So what that means is it has a SPDIF audio output. There's a lot of audio systems out there that are running on a fiber optic signal. This is where your output is gonna be. You also have other outputs like your power outputs, ignition, ground, and constant, just in case you wanna use the radio to power other devices. Directly below it, we have our 4G LTE antenna connections. You have to plug those in if you want the data plan on your SIM card to receive signal. Right next to it over here is your GPS antenna plug. Right below it, it is your AM/FM antenna. And right on the chassis of the radio is an additional plug that's responsible for handling all of our AC climate controls. So next, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go over everything that's included in the box, and then we're gonna show you where all of these different harnesses plug into the back of this radio. Inside the box, you're gonna find 2 separate bags. One of them has your accessory connections. The other one has your power speaker plugs. And also, there's a little film that's gonna help you clean your screen and a SIM card frame just in case you happen to have an existing SIM card off of one of your tablets and you wanna pull that out. But remember, SIM cards have different sizes, small, medium, and large. This happens to hold a medium-sized SIM card. So if your SIM card is small, then you can slide it onto the frame and it'll fit into this new radio. And we'll identify them together. Starting with your antennas, your microphone. So here we have GPS antenna, which is a blue plug. You probably can already guess where that one's going to plug into. We have a single Wi-Fi antenna. We have a microphone to mount. We have a USB input cable. The white plug is if just in case you want to put video files on a USB thumb drive and then transfer them onto the memory of the radio. Remember, you have 64 gigabytes of built-in memory on this radio. So this is your USB input to be able to do that. You can put music, you can put videos on any given USB thumb drive and plug it in there. It can handle up to a terabyte in size. So this would be our DVR cable. We call it a DVR cable, but what it really is your constant ignition and ground outputs. 99% of the time, you're not going to be using this harness unless you plan on powering an external device using this plug. Now, this is your AV input harness. It's gray, and it has your audio video input. Maybe you want to plug an external device into this radio. Maybe you want to use it to feed your PS5 or Xbox, whatever it might be. This happens to be your front, rear, and subwoofer harness. It's an off-white, almost yellow, and this also has your microphone plug right over here. The other harness that's included in this particular bag is your 3 camera inputs. Keep in mind that a lot of this generation Mustangs did not come with a factory backup camera. You may want to add one in the process of installing this radio, because what's going to happen is our radio is already reading the data bus on the vehicle, so it's going to monitor whenever it goes into reverse. And if you don't have a backup camera, or you didn't add a backup camera in the process of installing this radio, you're going to get a black screen that says no signal. But anyways, these are your 3 camera inputs. One of them is labeled factory cam input. That's the one that it defaults to when you put the vehicle in reverse. 2 other inputs that could be manually accessed using the cam icon on the screen. There's a couple of power outputs. These are designed for you to use to power your aftermarket cameras. If you want to add aftermarket cameras, these are the wires that you would use to power them up. You can use these, or you can use the power outputs that are on this harness. It's really up to you. Now, let's go over the other harnesses that are inside of this other bag. So this happens to be where our 4G LTE antennas come, and they are right over here. These are the ones with the purple plugs, and there is a total of 2 of them. They look like your Wi-Fi antennas, but they have a different plug on them. They also obviously serve a different purpose. That's your 4G LTE antenna number 1. That is your 4G LTE antenna number 2. Here is your AM/FM antenna adapter. This is from the factory antenna plug that's plugged into your current factory radio, and this is going to plug into the new radio. So this is basically called an antenna adapter. This is your USB retention. So if you have factory USBs in the armrest or inside of the center console, this is what you would be using. This right here is a USB input adapter. Now, this unit has wireless CarPlay and wireless Android Auto. However, Android Auto is the only one that could be hardwired as well. And you would be using this red plug that has the USB labeled phone link on it. That's what this red USB cable is for. You can also use it to plug in another hard drive. They're both going to serve the same purpose as the one that's got the white plug on it, except for if you want to do wired Android Auto, you would have to use the one that's on the red plug. CarPlay is only wireless. Now, in addition to that, this is the purple plug that I was telling you. This is your fiber optic audio output. If you want to go big with an audio system in one of these vehicles and you want to do it using the fiber optic signal, it is the cleanest audio signal in the market today. And this radio is equipped with it. This red box happens to be our CAN bus module. This is what basically reads ignition 12 volts. This is what reads everything that's going on in the vehicle. The vehicle's in reverse. This is how we're able to interact with the factory AC climate controls. And this here happens to be our main power speaker connector. You're going to notice that on the main power speaker connector, you'll have here a subwoofer output. So let's just go over this main harness. This comes off of the back of the new radio. These loose wires, 99.9% of the time, you're not going to use them. This is a remote turn on, the orange wire labeled amp EN. This is your remote turn on so that you can turn on and off any aftermarket amplifiers that you might want to use. The purple one is labeled 360 trigger, but this is just in case you want to add manual reverse trigger without having to be in reverse. And then we have steering wheel controls 1 and 2. This is in case you want to get crazy, take this radio, adapt it, retrofit it into a different vehicle. You can use the steering wheel controls and hardwire it in there. This CAN bus module already handles the steering wheel controls that are built into this generation Mustang. So moving on down, there is an audio output cable here that you're going to need to connect into this mating harness right over here. So all this is going to do is going to plug into itself, and depending on the factory audio system in the car, you may have a factory sub depending on the shaker audio system that you have in there. If you do, you would have to take the subwoofer output from the radio and you would have to mate it to the subwoofer input of the vehicle. So you're basically doing this. This is what's going to keep your factory subwoofer functional. And these two plugs at the end here are going to connect directly into the back of the radio. These are the plugs that you took out of the factory radio. Now over here, steering wheel connector. This is just in case you want to maintain function of your factory steering wheel controls. Other than that, we have our subwoofer harness. This is the CAN bus plug right over here. So this module plugs right in here. And the other white plug labeled to radio is the one that's going to plug in to the chassis of the radio. We saw that early on in the video. Now, we also have this additional harness. This is basically to maintain function of the factory auxiliary audio input, but it's also here for you to get your steering wheel controls functional. So basically, we have the wires that are coming from the vehicle. It houses the steering wheel control plug, and they're basically gonna mate right in here with each other. And this would be your factory auxiliary audio in. Most of these vehicles didn't come with one, but if you want to maintain function of it, it would basically use this AV input. So what we're doing is we're going audio in to the radio. This is going to the factory plug that was plugged into the back of your radio, and then it goes into your armrest or glove box, wherever your auxiliary audio input is. So that's just to retain those functions. So next, what we're going to do is we're going to go over how all of these connectors plug into the back of the radio, just so you can get an idea of where they plug in. Plugging these connectors into the wrong plugs on the back of the radio could potentially cause the radio to not work the way it's supposed to. But before we get into that, let's talk about this particular harness right here. You saw it earlier. It is the main harness. It's the plug that goes into the back of our radio, and these are the plugs that are going to plug into the plugs that were plugged into your factory radio. You're going to notice that inside the kit, we include 2 of these off-white connectors. The reason why we do that, it's because you got to understand that some of these Mustangs of this generation, they came factory amplified. Well, what happens when you feed a high level signal from any aftermarket radio into an amplified signal low level in? It's going to overdrive the inputs of the factory amplifier, and it will not sound good. So what happens here is our low level audio out comes out of this off-white connector. Our high level audio out comes off of this main plug right over here. So if you have a non-factory, non-shaker audio system in your vehicle, you're going to want to simply connect these 2 connectors. If your vehicle happens to have a factory shaker audio system where you have a sub, like your subs are in the door and stuff like that, then you're going to want to use this harness right over here. This is going to plug into the back of the radio, and the other one is gonna come in and it's gonna mate right over here. So into the car, we're gonna plug in either our high level out or the low level audio out of our radio. Now, if you don't have a shaker audio system where your front and rear speakers are amplified, then that's okay, because some of these vehicles came with just an amplified subwoofer. In that case, you wouldn't be using this harness, the one that's got the white plug on it. You would be using this one instead. All that means is, like I explained to you earlier, you're gonna take the subwoofer output of our radio and you're gonna plug it in to these two RCAs right over here. You're also gonna make sure that these two connectors are plugged into each other. So just to recap, high level output out of our radio going into a non-factory amplified system, or low level audio output coming out of our radio going into an amplified system. Or we only have a factory subwoofer where we're gonna keep this plugged in, and all we're doing is we're taking the subwoofer outputs out of our radio and connecting them to these harnesses, to these two RCAs that I have taped up over here. So hopefully that makes sense and it shines some light. If you still have questions, don't forget that we are here to assist you. So here's what I want to show you next. We have the plugs plugged into the back of the radio. At the very top, from left to right, your right, my left, what happens here is we start off with the black plug. This is the one that has your backup camera inputs. Then we have the purple small one that has your fiber optic audio out. And then the cyan or green one next to the purple one, it is your power outputs. If you're not going to be making use out of these particular power connections, go ahead and tape them up. They are protected with the gel tips, but if in the process of you putting this radio into your dash, these gel tips fall out, you do run the risk of them shorting out against the metal chassis of the radio or somewhere inside of your dash. Right next to that cyan, that green one, there's a red one that has your USB inputs, and that's as far as the top row. The bottom row is only going to take 3 connectors. Let me take these out so you can take a look at what's going on down there. That way we can get these plugs out of the way. So on the bottom we have the off-white. Remember, this is our low level audio out. This is where you're going to be using either the RCA harness or the one that has the low level audio out. So it's going to be either one, not both. Right next to that is the white one that has your USB input. The next one is blank, and the last one is the gray connector that has your audio video inputs. This is where we can talk about an HDMI input if you wanted to. We do sell that separately. So if you're interested in maybe mirroring your phone or mirroring any other device or feeding an HDMI signal into the radio, that module is sold separately. But this is what that's gonna help you with. So keep in mind that these plugs have the locking tabs facing down. The other ones that I showed you earlier, I'm going to use the black one for example, the locking tab is facing up and it plugs in there just like this. The ones on the bottom are going to go upside down and the locking tabs are along the bottom side of the connector. I don't think I need to show you the GPS connections, your Wi-Fi antenna, or your 4G LTE connections, because those are all just a given. And so as a bonus, since a lot of these vehicles don't come with factory backup cameras, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how you would hook up an aftermarket backup camera. Call us, let us know you're looking for one. We have a really good one to recommend to you. We're going to be making use of this harness. You have your 3 yellow RCAs as well as the black plug right on it. So what I have here is basically a standard aftermarket backup camera. The only thing standard about this backup camera is the harnessing. That camera happens to be a HD backup camera, which works really well with our screen. It also has basically the rest of it, the harnessing. You're going to have a camera. Any other aftermarket camera is going to be very similar. when it comes to the harnessing. So you're gonna have the camera. The camera's gonna have its own cabling that's gonna then plug into an extension. That extension is gonna run from the backup camera all the way up to our monitor. Right there, you're gonna have an additional cable that looks like this. So you have power and ground that's required to power up the camera. So the extension cable basically just reconnects to the other end of this harness like this. There's a male and a female, so you gotta make sure you run the right extension. So the other end of that backup camera has your video signal and power. Now it's up to you whether you want this camera to only be on when you're in reverse, or do you want it to be on all the time. If you want it to be on all the time, you're not gonna wire this to your reverse lights. You're gonna wire this to an ignition 12-volt source. Personally, I like for the backup camera to always be on whenever the vehicle is running, regardless of whether I'm in reverse or not. So that's where this other harness comes into play, the cyan or the black one. So the black one has your factory cam input. That is where the reverse camera is gonna plug into. It is labeled factory cam input. That's where you're gonna connect this one into. Now, the other yellow RCAs, you're not gonna use them unless you're adding a front camera, unless you're adding a side camera, total 3 different cameras. All the other cameras are gonna wire up exactly the same way this one is. So on here, you have basically some wires. They're labeled front cam power, right cam power, reverse cam power. So what this is doing is whenever the vehicle's in reverse, it's gonna generate 12 volts, and that's where you're gonna get power to your new camera. But this is only gonna turn on the camera if the vehicle is in reverse. If you want the camera to be on all the time when the vehicle is running so that you can manually access your backup camera without having to be in reverse, you're gonna use the red wire labeled ACC, and that's gonna plug into the red wire. Basically, they're gonna connect into each other. The black one is your ground. The black wire on this plug, the green plug, so you're gonna use red and black. So this is power and ground from us to your aftermarket camera. If you want the camera to only be on whenever the vehicle is in reverse, you're still gonna use the ground, but you're gonna use the reverse power of the black harness into the camera's power connections. Hopefully that makes sense, but that's how you would wire up an aftermarket camera into our radio, and you can have it running whenever the vehicle is on, so you can see that camera even though you're driving forward, or you can have it so that it's only visible when the vehicle is in reverse. You have the options to power it up one or the other way. So now that we've gone over all of the harnesses and everything else we're gonna need, what do you say we get on with the installation? This is a beautiful Mustang Saleen 302. All right, guys, so a couple of things before we get started with the installation. One of the things you wanna do is you wanna identify whether in fact you do have or don't have a factory amplified system. So in the process of me showing you where the factory amplifier in this vehicle is, I'm gonna show you also the microphone mounting option. So I already have the cable here coming down from the back of the dash, and I'll go over how to install that here in a sec. But what you're looking at essentially is the driver's side kick panel, and this is where you're going to be looking for the factory amplifier. So what you see there, that gray metal cage, happens to be an amplifier. And so depending on the plugs, it could be just a sub amp or it could be a full front rear amplifier. Sorry for it getting a little shaky here, but that right there happens to be the factory amplifier. So that's how you'll know whether you should feed low level or high level audio out of our radio into the factory harnesses. Now, in regards to microphone, the best location for the microphone is gonna be A-pillar, where the A-pillar meets with the windshield. Now, we have a couple of mounting options for you. You could take this flat surface on this pivot mounting that we have, and you can basically run your cable all the way up to the corner here and mount your microphone there like this. You just got to make sure you clean the surface really well. Or that ball joint pivot base basically removes. You can pop that out and you can insert this clip in there instead, so that you can clip the microphone to the plastic back there, and that would be how you mount the mic. Now, how you get your wiring through here, remember this piece, the A-pillar panel, is one whole piece all the way to the back. Now, you don't necessarily have to remove the whole thing. What I essentially did is you grab this piece from here and you pull down, and that's going to separate this plastic piece from the actual A-pillar itself, and it'll give you a gap so you can fish the wire from here out down this way, and you don't have to worry about the driver's side airbag because there are no airbags on this generation vehicle. So that's just an idea on how you could go about mounting your microphone. You can obviously choose to mount the mic anywhere else, not necessarily there, but the recommended location would be up here. Now, as far as removing the radio, depending upon whether you have an automatic or a manual, we happen to be servicing this vehicle, so the manual shift handle is not there, or the automatic one, but this happens to be a manual vehicle. All you're going to be doing is the armrest console area lifts up, and if you have a manual, the shift knob just basically screws off. You lift off the handle, you're left with the boot. If it's an automatic, the trim, the chrome trim around the shift handle is going to remove, and then you're able to pop this entire piece out. You do have the traction control hazard button plugs behind this part of the center console. You also have a light, cup holder, LED light plug underneath the cup holder. So let's go ahead and get this removed, and then we'll get on with removing the rest of the radio's panel with the screen. And so this is now with that whole center console piece removed. There's the plug that handles the RGB LEDs in the cup holder. And right up there is where the plug to the hazards button is. So once you move this out of the way, then it's going to expose the bolts, the 7mm bolts that are holding that entire trim piece in its place. So let's change the angle and get on with that. So what I'm going to use is a 7mm socket to remove the ones down here. These two. At this point, you should be able to pop this out. You may have to use a panel pop tool to slide in on the sides to be able to pop this entire thing out. Let me grab one, I'll be right back. So more than a panel removal tool, I would recommend some kind of a pick tool that's got a right angle to it, or a hook, because what you really need is you want to be able to get in underneath this panel down here so that you can pull forward towards you. If you use one of these, it's kind of hard to get under so that you can lift out on it. But with the little hook tool, you can pull it and then use your hands to be able to get to the rest of it, basically just like this. And so this has a single plug on the back for a sensor down here, and then there's another plug next to it. And these are the two plugs that'll handle your climate controls from the factory. So next we have 2, 4, 5, 6, 7mm bolts that we're going to need to remove. There's one. These two are a little buried in there, so what I do is I hold them with my index fingers as I pull the screen out so that they don't drop inside. You can recover them just like that. A couple of plugs on the back of the factory screen. Be gentle with this white one because it is a multi-pin plug. Next, we're going to remove the CD player. Now, the beauty about this particular application is there is tons of room inside of this radio cavity for all of the new harnessing that the new radio comes with. Pull this out. And this is where the bulk of your connections are going to be. You're not going to be using any of these brackets. You are going to need to reach in the back to be able to start disconnecting some of these plugs. Okay, so just a tip, use something sharp, maybe a flathead screwdriver, to be able to go down, push on the locking tab, and then push the plug away from the chassis of the radio. The last one is the main power speaker plug, which is a little bigger. That one's a little harder to push away. So you're pushing the plastic locking tab and then you're pushing it away from the radio. And that's how you're going to be able to get all these plugs undone. There is a plug inside of every single one of these connectors. All right, so now that we've had a chance to take the radio out and we have all of our harnesses ready to get plugged in, ready to be set in place, let's go over the harnesses that we are going to be using in this particular vehicle and the ones that we are not going to be using. So from the factory, these are the two that were plugged into the factory screen. They're not going to get used. Down here, these are the two that were plugged into the control panel out here. These two are not going to get used. The ones that were plugged into the radio, we have, this is a factory GPS antenna. This is a factory satellite radio antenna. The only antenna plug we are going to use is your AM/FM antenna, and it's this one right here. It's already plugged into our AM/FM adapter. And from the back of the radio, the other one that we're not going to use is this white multi-pin plug, which went from the radio. That's what fed the information from the radio to the factory screen. So this we're not going to use. Now, our Wi-Fi antenna, our GPS antenna, our 4G LTE antennas, this module stays in place. So it's a really good spot for you to mount your Wi-Fi, your 4G LTE antennas. Just make sure you get a Lysol wipe it down, clean it, dry it, so that you're not having to stick it onto a dusty surface. The GPS antenna, right back there, there's a subframe, metal subframe that goes across. Wipe that down and put your GPS antenna onto that right there. and it's perfectly fine. All of your excess wiring for your antennas, you can bundle it up, zip tie it, tape it, tuck it into the left, and leave a clean look like this where all 4 of your antennas are already coming out. Microphone is already back here. Basically, we came down the A-pillar underneath the steering wheel column across the driver's side kick area underneath the steering wheel column, and here is our cable for the microphone is already here. So we have that in place. Our hardwired USBs, the red one and the white one, are here. You could see it. They're already coming out the side of the glove box. This is for USB input in case you have a USB thumb drive or a 1 terabyte solid state hard drive. You're perfectly fine. These are all of our extra harnesses that we're not going to be using in this application. I'm not going to leave them out. I'm still going to plug them in just because it's a good practice to have. Don't leave any harnesses out. Maybe in the future you're going to want to add a DSP amplifier, maybe an auxiliary video input. You're good. So let's go ahead and leave that plugged in. I have the unit here on the driver's side kick panel. We are also going to run the 4G LTE SIM card holder through this opening out of the glove box, just so that in case you're not ready right then and there to put a SIM card in it, you'll have easy access to it in the future. In this case, we do have a SIM card that we're going to be loading in here. So I kind of want to give you a sneak peek of how to go ahead and load one in. I have the SIM card right over here. This SIM card already has a frame. You'll see how the SIM card itself is very tiny inside, and it's got a little frame that goes around it. So that SIM card can pop out of its medium-sized frame. If this was not the right size SIM card, we include that frame so that you could fit the SIM card inside of our SIM card holder and not have any problems with that. But while we're at it, I'm going to show you here basically how the SIM card itself, one of the corners has a notch, and that's where you're going to line it up with our SIM card holder. I need to put it down flat and I'll show it to you once it's in there. So there is the SIM card already in place. And so once that's in there, let me just get this to focus a little bit, maybe a little better. Okay, let's try this. That seems to be just fine. Okay, cool. So then the metal flap basically goes up, and you're going to push down and slide it up to lock the SIM card in place like this. So the SIM card is now in place. Now this just basically closes. I'm still going to run this that way so you could see where it's going to be. It's long enough for you to do that. Okay, so we'll leave that there for now. And so next we're gonna go over the radio plugs. So since this is definitely an amplified setup, we're gonna be using our low level audio out, the one that has the white plug right on there. We're gonna take the subwoofer out of our harnesses, and we are going to plug them into the subwoofer RCAs that we left open here. So this is going to be sub out of our radio into the factory sub connection. We are going to then not use the high level output out of our main harness because we're using low level instead. So remember, it's one or the other. So what we're going to do is we're going to plug in 1, 2, 3 harnesses. These 3 plugs are going to go right into these here. Main power. And then we are not going to be making any use of the other one that has the steering wheel control plugs. These are not going to get used. There is no mate to this connector on the factory harnesses, so this one's not going to get used. The steering wheel controls are going to work off the main CAN bus that comes in through any one of these three harnesses. So we have our three plugs here, and then we have the main harness that's going to go into the back of the radio. We have our low level audio out. We have our microphone plug right over here. So we're going to go ahead and plug that in while we're at it. Another good common practice to have is I like to add some tape onto this plug like this here, go over it and bring it down just to keep it from eventually coming undone. And then I'll just get rid of the tape here, and then I will wrap some tape around it just to keep that safe, just to keep that plug from coming undone. It isn't going to, it just makes me feel better to add some tape to keep it in place. So aside from that, we are also going to be connecting our CAN bus module. It's not that hard to miss. It's labeled to CAN box, and even though the CAN box has two sides, it'll only plug in to one side. Make sure you plug that in off this main harness. That's all we're going to be using. This is the steering wheel control plug that we're not going to use. Here is the other side of the CAN box. It says to CAN box. So make sure that you also come in and make use of that plug. And this is where this is going to go, just like this. So now that we have our main harnesses, we have our USB connections here. Remember, you don't have to be so neat about it, because you have plenty of room for all these harnesses to rest inside of this large cavity without being stressed at all. None of the plugs are going to be stressed. You want these harnesses to just sort of lay there. You don't have to be so neat in figuring out ways to, make this cavity look pretty. No one's going to see it. You want your harnesses to rest in there just fine. There will be no problem. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to grab the unit, the actual radio itself, and I'm going to start plugging things in. Okay, so what I like to do, I like to put the screen in my hand like this. And with my left hand, I like to start making the connections in place. So I'd like to start making my connections here. I'm going to start with all of my antennas. And that way we get those out of the way. So we'll have our two 4G antennas. I'm going to try and hold this in a place where you guys could see what I'm doing. I'm going to save the GPS for when these plugs are in. I don't want the GPS to be in my way, but I am going to do the Wi-Fi into here, and I am going to leave the AM/FM last, because that's going to get plugged in once I flip the unit and I'm ready to put it in place. So now that I have those, I've bundled all the small ones that I'm not going to be making any use out of. So let me grab this one here, and I'm going to use the off-white goes in first. There's a white plug. This is the backup camera harness, our optical out, purple one. Here is our cyan, And then on this corner goes our red. And then last but not least, the auxiliary audio input harness right over here. And now I can grab the GPS and plug that right in there. Only one left now is the main plug and the small one that goes in here, which is this one. Here's my main plug. Sorry guys. Okay, there's that. And here is my small plug right in there. And we have everything plugged in except for the AM/FM antenna, which is right over here. Bring it around and slowly start putting the radio inside of its resting place. Its new resting place, that is. Let me just get some of this protective film out of the way. We already include 2 plastic locking tabs on each side of the radio. There's 2 here, there's 2 here. So you don't need to remove excuse me, anything off the factory one. You don't need to remove anything off the factory one because it's already in here for you. I'm just pulling some of this film so it doesn't stay behind when I slide this radio in place. Okay, so everything just sort of lays back there, nice and neat. And before I snap this in place, I'm gonna make sure that nothing else is in the way, and I'm just going to lean it here for now. And next, I'm gonna go ahead and turn the key on and make sure that things are fully functional. All right, so we've gotten a little closer to the screen. We're gonna turn the ignition on, but before, let me remove this film. Remember that beyond this blue film, there's another temporary screen protector on there. It's just plastic, it's not glass. So next, let me go ahead and turn on the ignition, and we should have the radio come up for the first time. It will be a delayed turn on. All right, so here is our home screen. One of the things you will notice right off the bat is the location is already there. The weather is already following us. And that's because of our 4G cellular signal. Let me go ahead and zoom that in for you so you can get an idea of what that looks like once you have a SIM card in there. You could see that the 4G LTE network is already registering, and it's right there in the upper right hand corner, and that's because we have a SIM card already loaded in there. Now, one of the things that people do ask is, why a SIM card? Can I just do Wi-Fi hotspot off my phone? And the answer is yes. The only downside of using Wi-Fi hotspot is you're running on very low data. Even though they say it's unlimited, it's still very limited. And when you use Wi-Fi hotspot on your phone, CarPlay stops working. Just like when you use Wi-Fi hotspot on the radio, it also basically kills the CarPlay functionality. And so a lot of times people want to be able to do CarPlay and do internet at the same time. So in this case, one of the things that I'd like to do right off the bat is, number one, I want to go to the radio just so that I can verify and make sure that I am getting sound, and so that's kind of what I like to do. So let me go ahead and mute that just for now, and I'll press the button right in the middle right there, or I can just turn the volume down to 1. Now, one other thing that I like to do is just kind of keep in mind what kind of factory AC you had. And in this case, we had dual temp settings. So the way you tell this radio that you had the auto dual temp climate controls is you want to go into settings. You want to go to system. System is in the upper right hand corner. And then you're going to go into setting guide, car model AC. And this is where you're telling it you're in a Ford Mustang. Low would be single temp AC climate controls. In this case, we're going to go Mustang high, and we're going to tell it 2010 because it is from the 2010 to 14 generation. Once we do that, we're going to go ahead and tell it to confirm. And once it does confirm, the radio is going to turn off and turn back on. We'll wait for it to boot back up. Okay, so now that the system has rebooted, we're going to start at the bottom and work our way up and show you this user interface. Remember, climate controls, there's various different ways for you to control it. You can press the fan speed up and down buttons here on the left of the screen. You can hit the climate button and tap plus, tap minus. This is not the kind of user interface where you can drag this back and forth because it needs to know the steps. So this would be fan up, this would be fan down. You can also hit fan up here on the hard buttons, fan down. So those are a couple different ways to control the fan speed. You can press the power button here, or let me open up the climate page again, or you can press the power button on the touchscreen that way. You've got all of your AC, max defrost, rear defrost, recirculation, dual for independent passenger and driver side temperature controls. Now, when the AC is on, you have basically two different ways of controlling the temperature. You can press temp up on the touchscreen, temp plus, temp minus, or you can press the up and down arrows on the hard buttons on the right side of the screen to control the temperature. AC on and off, touchscreen here, or AC on and off in the right side of the screen. Now, let me take advantage of this time to show you day and night mode that this unit has, because the buttons actually light up. I mean, I have this bright light right above it, so it might not be that easy to see the buttons, but if I turn the lights on the vehicle, the buttons on the side do light up and the screen goes into dark mode. So this is basically night mode. And that's a very cool feature because at night it makes it so easy to look at, very pleasing. So that's as far as climate controls. All the way at the bottom, you can change modes by pressing the little seat, the little guide down here, and that will change the ventilation modes. You can hit mode here. You can also hit mode over here. So you have a hard button. Remember, right now we haven't snapped the screen all the way in place yet. But these are the different options that you have. Let me go ahead and turn that off and we'll work our way up. So right above the climate controls, back to the home button, we have these buttons right here. Home button basically brings you back to the home screen. So you could be in your app list, you could be navigating through your DSP audio settings. The home button will bring you back. You can also, from wherever you are, swipe down from the top and bring yourself home by pressing the home button that way too. Right here next to the home is a back button. So if you happen to be navigating through settings and you're in settings, I don't know, settings, let's just say setting guide, you're in car model AC and you want to go back one step, this would be the arrow for you. So that's what that does. Right next to that, we have volume up, volume down. The button in the middle is a mute button. And then the 4 squares here, that's going to take you to your list of applications. So doing that, let me hit the home button. Doing that button right over here, it's like swiping up from the home screen just like this. So these are different ways to control any one given function. This is how you get to your app list. You can also get there by swiping down and hitting the 4 squares right over here. Those 4 squares will also take you here. The button to the side of that, it looks like a square on top of another square. You tap that and it'll give you a list of the different apps that are open. So that's what this is going to do for you. Let's go back to the home screen and we'll keep working our way up. On the left part of the screen is your weather. If you are not connected to a cellular network or a Wi-Fi signal, this will not update. This will not follow you. You have to be connected to a cellular network or you have to be connected to a Wi-Fi signal so that this can be updating all the time. The right side of the screen on the bottom, it shows whatever audio source you're playing. In this case, we happen to be playing AM/FM. If I was playing a USB input with music on it, then I go back to the home screen. It's going to show me whatever it is that I'm playing there. Now, the other option right up at the top, this is your Google Maps. It wants me to sign in, but I can hit the top right hand corner and basically skip that. It's already found me and knows where I am, and that's because of the 4G cellular connection that's already working on the system. It has now updated the time, it has now updated the date, and it has now updated the outside temperature in the upper part of the screen. So that's this section of the screen. Upper left hand corner, you could dim it manually. There is 3 different stages of brightness. Remember, this is also controlled by the light switch in the vehicle. You can swipe down from the top. Sorry, let me just get my gloves to work better here. And you can also, on the fly, control brightness that way as well. So those are different ways to, navigate through as far as brightness. This button here is a shortcut to Google Maps, so it's going to open Google Maps all the time. The button next to it is your music USB input selection. This is your phone for Bluetooth. This is your CarPlay. This is the apps, just like the 4 buttons down here. And the last one all the way to the right, my apologies, that one is video. And the one all the way to the right happens to be CarPlay. So that's the screen layout. Now you guys notice me doing this. There's a couple different options here. You could do volume up and down using the up and down here on the radio itself. You could do this. You can also go down and you can control volume this way. You can also, I'm going to reach over for the steering wheel controls and I can adjust volume that way too. So those are different ways of controlling volume up and down. Wi-Fi on, Bluetooth on and off, airplane mode. This is your 4G cellular network. We have the home button that takes you there. That back arrow is the same thing as this back arrow. And those 4 squares are the same thing as these 4 squares. The bottom right hand button here, the one that looks like a some kind of a signal strength, that one takes you to a hotspot function. So when you get the right data plan on the SIM card, this radio can also tether Wi-Fi hotspot to other devices in the vehicle. So if you've got your kids in here, they want to, basically borrow the cellular signal from the radio. Depending on the SIM card that you get and the data plan that is on there, call us. We'll be more than happy to assist you with that. There are data plans that don't have that function and you won't be able to use this, but you get the right data plan on your SIM card and you will also be able to tether Wi-Fi hotspot to other devices inside of the vehicle. So that's what that does. It takes you directly there. This camera button here, it's basically a screenshot. Like it takes a screenshot of the screen and saves it inside of the photos folder. Cool, right? Now, the other function that we have, sorry, my gloves keep messing up the screen here. This 2 buttons is the same thing as these 2 buttons. It'll open up all the different applications that you have running. So that's as far as the home screen, you guys. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to pair an iPhone. But before we get into pairing mode, know that the CarPlay application, let's go to the app sheet. The application for CarPlay is this one here called Car Auto. So Car Auto is your CarPlay Android Auto application. Down here on the bottom left is where you'll tell it I am connecting an Apple iPhone or I am connecting a Samsung Android device or any other Samsung or any other Android device. Now I'm going to be using a CarPlay, so the pairing process is identical for both options, CarPlay or Android Auto. Now over here on the bottom right there's a hexagon. You touch that, it's going to open up these settings. So allow auto boot, what it does is it allows for CarPlay to automatically connect the minute you get into the car and you turn it on and you're ready to go. If you have this on, that's what's going to happen. If you have this off, you're going to come into the car, your phone is going to connect to Bluetooth. Your phone is going to connect to Bluetooth, but you're not going to be able to use CarPlay. You'll be in Bluetooth, just like we know, Bluetooth hands-free calling, Bluetooth audio streaming. So you'll be there, except for you won't have CarPlay until you manually come in and launch CarPlay yourself. That's when CarPlay will begin to work. Now, if you turn that function on, the minute you get into your car, your phone pairs to Bluetooth. Once Bluetooth connects, CarPlay automatically launches. Hopefully that makes sense. And so that's how you'll be able to get CarPlay to automatically launch whenever you get into the vehicle. Sorry for the shaking here. I'm adjusting the camera so you guys can see the top of the screen as well. So that's where that's going to happen. Let's go back. I'm going to open up all the apps that I have running. I'm going to close CarPlay. I'm going to close Bluetooth, close my music app, close my video app settings, DSP, weather, and I'll leave radio up and running for now. Let me go ahead and turn the volume down on that. So now let's go ahead and pair a phone. So I'm going to go into Bluetooth. I'm going to go into, Bluetooth. I'm going to now basically, I'm already searching. So I'm going to go to my phone application over to the right where the chain link is. I'm going to pair new device. The minute my phone comes up and shows up over here, I'm going to go ahead and select it. And my phone's going to now ask me if I want to pair with this device. I'm going to say yes on the phone, allow contacts. So it's pairing request. Since it's already connected to Bluetooth, here comes CarPlay. The phone's asking me if I want to connect to CarPlay. I'm going to say connect. And now here is CarPlay in all of its glory. That's how easy it is to connect a Apple iPhone or an Android device to this particular unit. I mean, you'll never see CarPlay the same again after looking at it in this kind of format. I mean, it's just unbelievable, right? So again, this is basically connecting CarPlay, and this is CarPlay in all of its glory. As you guys already know it, as you guys have already seen it, this is how it works. All right, so what we're gonna do next is we're gonna talk about our USB input that we have. And so I have a memory stick with a couple of music videos on it. I wanted to show you how that works, only because if you don't disable the video in motion, you won't be able to see anything. You'll be able to hear it, but you will not be able to see it. For example, in this case, it says that it's playing a video, as you guys can see it here, right? It says that it's playing it, but it has a exclamation mark here on the screen. So what you want to do is you want to go into settings. You want to go into system down here, factory settings. The code is 1660. Press OK. And so you're going to look for video in motion. Video in motion happens to be right over here. Turn that off. Go back to your video. Now you'll be able to see it. So again, there's little things here and there that make it very easy to use. So this happens to be a music video from one of the halftime shows. Let me see if I can go back over here. I'm gonna open it up, and there's this under my USB storage. Here's another one that I have. So go back to playing it. And so this happens to be another music video that I have on here. Again, remember, this happens to be day mode. If I turn the lights on, then it all goes into dark mode. And it basically it looks so much nicer, right, in dark mode. My favorite part about all of this is having the ability to split screen. So I have my USB video opened up. If I press and hold this bottom button here, the video goes to the back. I can come to my app list and I can open up Car Auto. Notice CarPlay is going to reboot to now give me the right aspect ratio. So now I have mapping with music videos. The app that you start with first, in this case, I started with music videos on the USB, goes to the top. Now watch this. I'm gonna grab the white line in the middle and go to the top. Look what CarPlay does. It'll reboot itself to give us the right aspect ratio, so it doesn't give us that stretched image. So what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna start with CarPlay. Let me just go make sure CarPlay is there. Clear this, clear this, clear this, just because I don't want any of these unwanted apps to take over. So I'm gonna go and I'm gonna open up CarPlay. I'm gonna press and hold the button down at the bottom. I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna select USB HD video player. So now CarPlay's at the top, it reboots itself. Now I have the video down at the bottom. So that's one way to really take advantage of the real estate on a vertical screen. So now we're going to talk about one of my favorite features and functions, which is the dimming brightness of the screen. As you know, you have day mode, night mode within your light switch settings. You could do that. But another thing you could do is inside of settings under general, here under dimmer, you can tell it how bright you want it during the day and how bright you want it at night, so that when it comes to daytime, nighttime, even though the screen goes to dark mode, the white part of it doesn't necessarily dim if you have it set to night 20. So you want to be able to do that. You want to be able to tell it how bright, how dark you want it. Now the different options, you can have it set to auto. So if you select here at the top of the list, day and night mode, you can have it so that it automatically changes from day to night mode based on your lights status, or you can have it permanently in day mode, or you can have it permanently in night mode. Another cool feature that I like happens to be an eye comfort setting. So if you go to System, under Android settings, under Display, right over here, there is something called Night Light. So Night Light happens to be that yellow tint that removes the UV light from the screen, so that at night it makes it that much more comfortable to look at. So if I turn it on, look where the setting is. It's pretty deep, pretty intense. So you can tell it how much of that yellow tint you want or how little of that yellow tint you want. Not only can you turn it on, you can schedule it so that it comes on at night and it turns off in the morning. So at night when your lights come on, not only is it going to go into dark mode, it's also going to have that yellow tint so that you can basically look at it. It's that much more comfortable to look at when that yellow tint is on. It isn't so vibrant. Another cool thing about brightness and display is if you swipe down like this, there is a dark screen mode. So you can turn the screen off and the audio is still playing, everything in the background still running. It's just that your screen is off at this point, and then touching the screen basically brings it back. So those are just some different ways of controlling the brightness settings on these head units. Okay, so built-in DSP. So a lot of us are used to bass, treble, mid. Well, let me tell you, you're in for a treat, because DSP happens to have an arsenal of audio controls. Not only does it have a built-in EQ, so that you can set all of your different frequencies from 20,000 hertz all the way to 20 hertz. It has preset EQ modes that you can select from, or you can set your own up to 3, and you can then save that particular setting on any given 1, 2, or 3 of these options. So you can tune your EQ. You swipe over to the left. Now, in this particular vehicle, because we have the subwoofer gain control, this is controlling the factory sub. Remember, we took the subwoofer output of the radio, plugged it into the subwoofer input of the harness. This is controlling the subwoofer output of the radio, which is raising, lowering the volume on the factory subs. This controls the frequency that your subs are playing at. You have anywhere from 20 to 250 hertz. Mid-band pass filter, this is basically a combination of your subwoofer gain controls and some of your high pass frequencies. You have from 20 to 680, and then you have a high pass filter from 6K to 2000 to 22,000 hertz. Over to the left one more time. This is basically time delay. Because it's been customized to the vehicle. What's happening here is you can change the stage depending upon if you're by yourself or if you're with a passenger, or you want the stage to be kind of in the middle towards the top. You can change the stage depending on your own personal preference. Like for example here, I can tell it to bring the stage closer to the driver. So if I come in here and I put this settings to number 2, now the stage, the sound is going to play more as if it's basically geared towards me. It delays the timing of each one of the speakers to make the sound play as if it's all focused where I'm at. So if I have a passenger and I want the stage more towards the center, I can set it that way. So what you're doing with these different values is you're adjusting the stage depending on where you want it. And I think that's a really cool feature, because in the past you had to measure the distance between the passenger side speaker, the driver side speaker, and depending on the distance, that's how you would set it. You don't have to do that with this particular setup. This is your front and rear speaker outputs. You can adjust that there, and that basically is it. You have 4 pages, 1, 2, 3, and 4 pages of audio controls. Again, it's an awesome feature to have. Don't forget, it also has front, rear subwoofer outputs. It has a Toslink audio output. So it has multiple different ways to expand upon the audio system in this particular vehicle. All right, so another cool feature that I want to talk to you guys about is having the ability to log into the Play Store. So I've already logged into the Google Play Store, and my favorite thing to do, obviously, beyond all of the video streaming applications like Netflix, Hulu, Pluto TV, one of my favorite ones happens to be YouTube, as well as YouTube Music. So it's as simple as basically logging into the Play Store and you can start downloading applications. Now remember, having a SIM card loaded onto these radios opens up, it unlocks an entire whole new world of features and functions, because you're not tied or limited to a Wi-Fi hotspot. See, with Wi-Fi hotspot, you have to always make sure that you reconnect manually, just because of the nature of hotspot from your phone. And it doesn't automatically connect when you get back into the car. It's limited as far as data goes. Well, having an unlimited data plan on a SIM card onto one of these radios, I'm telling you, it's a complete game changer, because you can download the Ring application on this radio, and if someone rings you at home, you can answer directly from the car because you're already connected to a cellular network, and someone's ringing you at home, the app will notify you on your screen. You can hit the answer button directly and communicate with the person that's at your house without having to pull your phone out of your pocket. It is so convenient to have. So I just downloaded the YouTube application. I'm going to go ahead and open it up. So now that YouTube is opened up, again, I can go back to having my CarPlay running together with my YouTube video. So now I am watching a YouTube video while I navigate home. So having this function is just unbelievable. Talk about entertainment in the vehicle. All right, so the only thing left to do now is to slide and put this unit in its place. What you want to do is the bottom tabs need to go in first, and then you can snap it in place. So you're going to want to grab it, slide it down in there like this, and then lean it back, and then push it into its resting spot. Just like that. And then you can put 2 screws down here. That way it can stay secured the entire time, and you put your center console back together. Once again, guys, thank you so much for sticking through this entire process. I mean, the features, the functions are truly endless. We could be here for, 10 hours going over everything that this unit has got to offer. But most importantly, know that we're here to help you answer your questions. If you have any questions, any comments, concerns, feel free to drop a comment on this video. We'll be more than happy to assist. And once again, stay tuned. We have more applications coming. We are excited about that. Thank you and have a great day.